Well, the ink, specifically the magenta ink in my Epson EcoTank 15000 is clogged and it's giving me a headache, and so I had to get a new one. Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm Patrice, and today we are going to be doing something that we've already done on this channel, and we did that about 5 years ago. We are going to be unboxing an Epson EcoTank 15000 that we will be using for sublimation printing. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. If you are looking into sublimation or you're looking to upgrade a current sublimation printer that you have, this might be the video for you. So the Epson EcoTank 15000 is not a sublimation printer. However, we are going to be placing ink, sublimation ink, inside of it and using it for sublimation. This particular printer can print up to 13 inches wide, and it can print super long. And I mean very long. But it can print up to 13 inches wide, which makes this an ideal printer for sublimation, especially when you have larger items. So you don't have to really do too much piecing together. You will still have to. It's not a super wide format printer, but you can get quite a few things done with it, and I absolutely love it. Now, just know that once you put sublimation ink inside of these printers, it voids your warranty, okay? Epson does not like for us to use inks that's not theirs, and then also different types of inks inside of their printers. So just know that once you do this, you are voiding the warranty on this printer. Today, we are going to be using an Epson EcoTank from their refurbished site. I love getting printers from the refurbished site, especially for cases like this when I'm going to be using it for something that it's not intended to be used for. Now, Epson does have dedicated sublimation printers. These are actual sublimation printers that Epson has that you can get, and you can avoid some of these clogging issues that you might get using one of their standard EcoTanks. Now, that's it. Let's get started. This is going to be simple. I gotta tell y'all, this is one of the easiest printer setups ever. Let's get started. All right, guys, so this is the Epson EcoTank 15000. I purchased this from the Epson refurbished website, and you do have a 1-year limited warranty with the printers from off of the Epson refurbished site. It comes with, of course, your ink and your AC adapter. Now, what we're going to do is we're not going to use this ink that comes with the printer. This is your standard ink. This is pigment ink that you would generally use inside of your printer. We're going to use sublimation ink for this printer. Now, once you install a different type of ink that is not an Epson ink into your printer, you void your warranty. Okay, so you really want to think about that prior to doing this with this machine. Now, Epson does have other printers. They do have other printers that are dedicated to sublimation. So you may want to check that out if you don't want to put another brand of sublimation ink into this printer. This ink is not for sublimation. Okay, so if you intend to use it for sublimation, you want to either use this in another printer that you may have that prints regular prints, or you may want to toss it. So now I'm just removing all of the tape from the printer. Make sure you check all of the areas, open up the top of the printer, look underneath there, because sometimes there's tape often inside of the printer. You want to make sure, it's very important, you don't want to damage your printer trying to print something and there is still tape on certain parts. Alright guys, so the next thing we're going to do is grab sublimation ink. And today I'm using dynamic ink. This is sublimation ink. And this can be found inside of my Etsy shop. This is an ink that I sell, and it is going to be wonderful. All right, this is sublimation ink. This is not the ink that came with the printer. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and place this inside. We're going to start with the black. There are 4 ink channels. You have black, you have cyan, you have magenta, and then you have yellow. So you want to pay attention and make sure that you put your ink in the correct slot. Okay, so we're going to be starting out with the black. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this and then we're going to flip it upside down. Now these ink tanks or these ink bottles have the correct nozzle so that it's easy to install the ink. While that's going, we're going to open up the cyan. All right, so this one is installed. Now we're going to install the other colors, and we're simply going to just make sure that we follow the color layout here. Okay, so now we're going to go to cyan because cyan is next. So all I'm doing is matching it up. So we're going to go to cyan. This is cyan. And then we're just going to do the same thing for the magenta and the yellow. All right, guys, so this process is super simple. I'm just going ahead and making sure that I put the ink in the correct ink tanks. Okay, so just let it go out. You'll hear it. You'll be able to hear it going into the ink tanks. And once you stop hearing it, that means that nothing else is going in. So these bottles fill up each ink cartridge. The black ink fills it up. However, just know that once you charge your ink, you're going to lose some of that ink out of there because it charged. All right, guys, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to close our tank. Once we're done, we're going to close the lid, and then we're going to lift this up, and then we're going to bring it all the way down. Try not to drop it like that, but it's all good. All right, so next we're going to grab our cord, and we're just going to get ready to plug this in. Facing your machine, it's going to be over on your left side, okay? Right in the back. We're going to plug this in right here, and we're going to plug it into an outlet. You also have your USB cords over here, your phone line over here in case you want to use the fax feature, your Ethernet slot. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to plug this in. All right, guys, so now we have it plugged up. We're going to press the power button. All right, so we want to select the language that we're going to need, and we need English. We are in the USA, and somewhere we want to go with month, date, and year. So we are at May 16th, Mirabear's birthday, 2025. Click OK. We're going to go with the 12 hours. And right now it is 4:56. Oh, but it's not AM, it's actually PM. I should have changed it to PM, but it's fine. So lift it up from the side. So this is the transportation lock, and we're just going to flip it all the way back like that. Let me show you again. So that's the transportation lock. We're just going to flip it all the way back to unlock it. We're going to lift this back up and bring it down. All right, so now we're going to say done. All right, guys, so the next thing we're going to do is press and hold the help or the question button, and it just says see the start here bundled. This is part of the instruction for setting up your machine. So we're just going to press that for 5 seconds. And now we've already filled up the ink. We're going to select proceed and then start initialization, confirm that the ink tank is filled with ink, done. And so now this is just going to charge the ink so that it begins to flow through the pipes. All right, guys, so now that it's done, and it says move on to print quality adjustments. So I am going to open up the paper cassette tray in the front, and we're just going to slide that out. I'm going to then expand the paper guides, and we're going to place plain paper in here for now. However, when we get ready to do sublimation, we want to make sure we're placing sublimation paper in here, okay? So we're just going to place this here. Now, someone's going to say, you know, you can print sublimation images on plain paper. You sure can. I generally use sublimation paper, but you certainly can. Okay, so we're just going to place this in here just like this, and we're going to slide it back in. And then to adjust, let's go there. Let's go ahead and adjust. Let's do a print head nozzle check. Print. You can flip this out. You can slide out. All right. So the blue does not look good, but the black, the yellow, and the magenta looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the X, and then we're going to just simply run a print head cleaning. Alright guys, so here is the nozzle check, and everything looks pretty good. I can go ahead and say that it's okay. We are done. We already did that. Alright, so we're just selecting a paper size. No. All right, so let's get ready to install the software onto our laptop. All right, y'all, so I plan to use this printer remotely, and I will not be connecting it via the USB, but if you prefer to have a hardwired connection, definitely go for it. Those are more reliable. I'm just going ahead now and setting this up to my home network, and it's a very simple process. Just know your password, and you will be up and going in no time, and your computer will be able to connect to your printer wirelessly, seamlessly. Okay, y'all, so now we're on the Epson site, and we need to make sure that we download the software and the drivers. I already have the software onto my computer, but I am going to walk you all through that process. So we are on Epson.com, and we are simply going to locate the printer that we need the drivers for. So for us today, we have the Epson EcoTank 15000. So that is the printer that we will be looking for. Now you can select it from here, go to printers, or you can just simply go to support. I'm going to select support, and we're going to hit printers. There's several different ways you can get to the drivers. So I'm going to select, or I'm going to type in the search bar ET-15000, and we're going to select search. Now anytime you maybe switch a computer, or maybe you might lose your driver sometimes, this is how you will always go back in and get your drivers downloaded. Okay, so now we're going to simply go down to operating system. As you see, there's several different options here, but we are on downloads. Okay, you can also download the iOS app for your MacBooks and iPads, or you can download the Android app. Okay, so here we're going to select operating system, and we're going to click on the drop down menu. The operating system that I have the Mac OS 15.5, and so this is what I would select. So depending on the computer that you have and the operating system, that is what you would select. Okay, so I'm just going to select here because that's what I have, and then I'm going to select go. After you select go, then all of the drivers and softwares that you can download for your printer will be listed here. And for drivers and utilities,
you can go ahead and just select this, because that should be almost a complete package. Now, what I have experienced in the past is that not all of the settings will pop up when you select this. So I would go ahead and select drivers and utilities, but I would also select printer driver, especially if you want other options, like the option to print premium presentation matte or plain paper bright white, and then increase your print quality from there. Okay, so you would select here, and then you would go ahead and download it. Once you download it, then you will need to install it onto your computer. Once it downloads, you will be able to go into your files and look for that download right here. Here's my download. You're just going to click onto it. Once you click onto it, you will be able to walk through the process of installing it onto your computer. Alright guys, so now we're inside of Silhouette Studio, and we will be printing from Silhouette Studio today. So I need to set up my page, and we are going to be printing this out on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of sublimation paper. So I'm just going to select letter. Now we're going to get ready to import or merge the file that we will be printing here. And we are going to be printing one of these round sublimation images that I purchased from off of Creative Fabrica. Actually, it's a part of my All Access membership. Okay, so it came in, and it came in as a pretty large file, but we know that the car coasters are super small, so it's about 2 3/4 inches. So I'm going to do 2.8 just to give me a little bit of extra space. Enter. And now we have our car coaster. So I have 2 of them that we'll be printing. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a copy of this one, and we will print. So I'm going to show you all how this will be printed. I am going to end up printing another image because we have a few other things that we're going to be pressing, but this is just to show you how to bring the design in. And if you don't have it set up already, then you would go to print page setup, and then you'll just let the software know if you're going to be using a particular printer and also the paper size. I'm going to click OK, and then we'll go to print, and here we have the images. Now once you select print, then you'll get your dialog box pop up, and then you just want to scroll down, and then you're going to select printer options. Once you select printer options, you're going to go to print settings, and then this is where all of those drivers that you downloaded, this is where all of the settings will be. So we're going to keep ours at plain paper bright white, and we're going to change the print quality to quality, and then I'm going to mirror it. Okay, and then we'll select OK. Now you can also change your color options. You can adjust your colors, do different things like that if you click advanced setting, and then you can adjust your different colors, the brightness, the contrast, if that's what you want to do. You can also change this mode to Adobe RGB, and you can either switch from a 2.2 to a 1.8 gamma. I'm going to keep mine at a 2.2, and then you select OK. And then now we're ready to print. Alright guys, so here is our printer printing out the image. Now just remember, depending on the settings that you use, that determines the speed of your printout. And so printing on best quality or premium quality, that is definitely going to extend the print time for you. Alright guys, so here's our print, and we're going to simply cut the parts out. I have our blanks here, which we will be using, and I'm just going to cut it like this. Now the blanks that we're going to be using, we have the keychain, which is going to go here, and this is a double-sided keychain. We have the car coasters, and then we also have just some regular coasters. The first thing I want to do is, anytime you have this type of material, you want to make sure that you peel the film from on top. Now sometimes some items don't have this film on top, but this does. Okay, and it's just a clear film, and you always want to check your items. Alright, and that's off. This particular frame, you can either have it in landscape, horizontal, or vertical. We're going to be
doing a vertical press of it because the picture is about a 5.5 by 7 inch size. So you just want to do that. I left it like this because I didn't really want to mess up the photo. And I'm placing it on top. Of course, this makes it a little bit easier so that I'll be able to see and make sure that the faces are here. Okay, and then of course I have some heat tape, and we're going to just tape this down from this direction. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for the other items. I'll wrap this around like this. Alright, so this one's all set, and when we get ready to press, we'll just make sure that we have it this way with the paper on the top. Okay, I kind of want these to look the same, so we'll go ahead and we will place this like this. And place it like this.
Alright guys, so now I'm just taping all of the other substrates onto the image so that we can get ready to press these. I'm going to be using a temperature of 385 degrees and pressing it for about 45 seconds for all of the items today. Alright, so we're at the heat press and we're going to get ready to press our items. I also have heat gloves. These will definitely come in handy. At the bottom of the press, I have a piece of butcher paper, and that's to protect your press and make sure that no ink goes onto that bottom part of your press. We are going to first start out with the coasters. We're just going to place it here. The heat press is at 385 degrees, and we'll be pressing this for 45 seconds. Now, in addition to that piece of butcher paper, we're also going to place a piece of butcher paper on top. Depending on the sublimation paper you use, you may need butcher paper on top, or you may not, but I would always recommend placing butcher paper on top in case you don't know. Okay, so we have this here, and I'm going to go ahead and press that. Alright, that's all set, and we are going to just put our heat gloves on because this will be very hot. Alright, so we're going to just move this, and let's see how that turned out. I can tell already, so pretty. That is beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so we can go ahead. Let's grab our other coasters. And these are the coasters. I'm just going to place this right here in the center of those. And I'm also still going to place a piece of that butcher paper right on top. Now, you may want to change your butcher paper. Make sure that none of that ink got onto the top butcher paper, because if it did, you want to go ahead and change it. I cut out a pretty large piece of the butcher paper. So if I saw paper, I would just cut it off and place the fresh, non-contaminated piece of butcher paper on top. Alright, let's check. Alright, let's check the second set. It's the same design, and that looks just as good. So this is going to be for my car. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to press that little keychain we have. And now, as you see, I have ink here, so you may want to cut that off or get a fresh piece. I'm just going to cut it off because I don't like to waste too much butcher paper. Okay, let's go ahead and press this one. I'm just going to put it right here. I'm going to place a piece of butcher paper right there on top. Alright guys, that one's all done. And that's what we have. That looks good. And finally, we're going to press our photo. Let's get ready to press this. I'm going to move this over just like this. We're going to place parchment paper or butcher paper on top. And then use for the press.
Let's see how this one turned out. I'm just going to peep under here a little bit, just to see a little bit, and that looks very good already. Let's go ahead and just remove our tape. Wow. All right, so that's the final picture. All right, y'all, so we are all done with setting up our new Epson EcoTank printer and installing the Sublimation ink inside of it. And as you guys saw, we completed a few projects. Everything came out beautifully. Sublimation ink, once it gets into whatever it's supposed to be subbed onto, it's permanent. Now, there are things that you can't sub onto, like cotton. There are several hacks that's around for you to be able to sub onto black and cotton items, but those are simply just hacks. This is the actual sublimation process, okay? And so there are materials, mainly polyester materials, that sublimation needs. It's required for sublimation if you have polyester material. All right, but everything turned out really nice. I love how everything turned out. If you are interested in anything that I use, check the description for the printer. Also my ink, the dynamic ink. This ink, y'all, my ink is legit. Okay, it's legit. Look at this up close and personal. It looks very, very good. So definitely check it out. A link will be listed below. If this video was helpful, please don't be shy. Let me know in the comments if it was helpful. If it wasn't helpful, you can let me know that too. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, y'all.